Hey, Pet Service Pros, this is your host, Anthony Flores. Before we get to the show, I would like to personally extend an invitation for you to join us at Pierre.fm. Pierre is a pet service marketplace that helps pet service stores accept bookings through our website and super simple to use mobile app. Just think, guys, Expedia for pet services. It's free to join. There are no setup fees, no minimums. You only pay when you get orders, and you can cancel our service anytime. Guys, consumer behavior is changing and consumers expect a simple and transparent way to book your services. Whether you're an established pet service store and looking to stay ahead of the game or new to the pet service industry, Pierre can help you to grow your business. To learn more, visit us at Pierre.fm today. Pierre.fm. Now let's get to the show.
From the Pierre headquarters in Los Angeles, Pierre presents The Shift, a pet services podcast. A show where pet service pros learn the latest trends in design, marketing, technology, and the stories from other pet industry entrepreneurs and the businesses they built.
The Shift.
Let's go!
Hey guys, we're back and I'm Anthony Flores. And in today's episode, we sit down with an extraordinary human being, Grace Chon. Grace is the best-selling author of one of my personal favorite dog photography books called Puppy Styled. She is also the host of her very own podcast called Creativity School. Grace's photographs have been featured in the likes of the New York Times, HGTV, and Family Circle, just to name a few. We're going to learn Grace's thought process on life, growth, and creativity. If you're an aspiring photographer, author, or looking to up your photography game, or maybe even publish a book of your own, Grace shares with us her framework so that you too can tap into your zone of creativity. You're not going to want to miss this one, you guys. We hope you enjoy the show. Grace, welcome to the show.
Hey, Anthony. I'm so happy to be here.
We get to meet in real life.
I told you before we recorded, this is my first time doing this face-to-face with someone, and it's intense. I'm like staring at your eyeballs as I'm talking.
That's right. You have your own podcast too, which I spent a few days last week actually listening to. Really cool topics, and you've done a lot of them. Yes,
I'm up to 41, and I am burned out. So I'm doing a break at the end of this month, end of October, going on hiatus, a season break.
Do you record on the weekends?
No.
So how do you spend your weekends? What is that?
Family
is that like
time. Mm-hmm. Weekend is family time. My husband and my son, he's 6 years old, and we just do family stuff.
That is so cool. So during the week, are you like one of those people that kind of sequester yourself in the back room and no one's allowed to you're the creative, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, during the week, my son is in school now. So I would say the most challenging time in my life was the first 3 years of his life, just because I had a babysitter 12 hours a week, which is just twice a week. It's not enough time. And so once he started preschool and he was out of the house, then I was able to, sequester myself and sit down and focus. But until 3, it was really like fitting in work where I could.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, what's interesting. We have friends on the East Coast, and I noticed this in other countries as we travel. A lot of couples actually hire a live-in nanny or someone that actually travels with them so they still have their life. Mm-hmm. And it's just weird how, like, here in Cali, you don't see a lot of that. It's almost looked upon as negative. Like, why aren't you taking care of the kid yourself, right?
Maybe that's a perception from people. I don't know. I think that in the community of parents that I'm in, mm-hmm. I don't think there's that kind of judgment. And if there is, it's not voiced. I think it's like, especially with the women that I know and the kind of mothers that I know, it's like, you got to do what you got to do. So if you don't have a job and you still got a full-time nanny, more power to you. Like, take care of yourself. So if somebody had a family where parents are busy or not, and they have a full-time nanny following them around and traveling with them, I'd be like, great, you're lucky. That's awesome.
That's right. What about, you like to meditate too? We had talked about that.
Yeah,
When do you get time to do that?
Every morning I meditate while I'm walking my dogs. So it's like a walking meditation, and it's a way for me to start the day off in the best place possible. And I meditate at night too. So before I sleep.
Wow. So TM, or like, are you doing like Zen meditation, or what exactly are you doing?
That's a really good question. I don't know what I'm doing. It's just like a made up thing. I've been doing this for a very long time. So I was taught about in 2009 when I started my photography business. And I don't even know if this person had a technique. It wasn't a formula way, that it didn't have like a structure. It was more like, let's quiet ourselves and learn to hear our internal voice and find peace that way. So there wasn't any structure more than that. And so that's still basically what I practice now. And because I've been doing this for so long, my meditation really is about putting a certain feeling that I want in my body. And in the morning, if I feel stress or anxiety about or something as I'm walking, it's like, let's release that and try to start the day at the best feeling possible. And at the end of the day, it's the same thing. I do it in my bed, but I'm like, I want to go to sleep, releasing whatever happened during the day that I need to. So it's just like intuitive.
I actually bring this up because I think I want to kind of get inside your head as to, I guess, the mental side of creativity. I mean, is this something that you do prior to, and we'll go into your books and your podcasts and all the really cool creative stuff that you do, but I wanted to kind of understand the mental side of it. Do you spend time meditating before photo shoots? And is that something that you do to kind of help you throughout the day?
It's not something that I do throughout the day purposely, but something that I've learned to do is breathe. And so for a lot of people, meditation is just learning how to breathe and paying attention to your breath. And so because I'm paying so much attention to the way my body feels, a lot of it is racing in the heart or feeling an uneasiness in my gut. What I do through the day is if I feel something like that rising, like this morning on the way here, I mean, it was just like frenzy of phone calls and emails, and it's just craziness because there's a photo shoot coming up in a few days. I feel that in me. And now through this practice of a decade of meditation, I know to breathe away those feelings.
Oh, interesting.
And it really helps, because if you don't do that, what happens is those yucky feelings accumulate all day long. And by the end of the day, you're going to explode.
So how do you become aware of that? Or is it through meditation that your awareness is heightened too?
I don't know. I think that, I am an introvert. And so I think introverts by nature are very self-reflective and go inward. I say I don't have to go bungee jumping or skydiving because I have the most amazing universe within me. And I really like going inward. And I'm a very curious person too. And so for me, going inward and discovering about what's going on inside of me is like exploring space. Like, it's so much fun. And I think just being curious by nature, being an introvert, like maybe I had some ingredients in me that made me more susceptible to want to go inward. And meditation was just like the vehicle to help me. And it really is just about self-awareness, because even being in a moment where you're so stressed out and you're feeling yucky feelings boiling up inside of you, to just be able to realize that's happening and take a step back and breathe it out, that's just awareness. That's just catching yourself and knowing what you're doing and what you're feeling.
That's big. And I think a lot of people, they lack the impulse control to do that. You got something on your mind and you just want to spit it out.
No, it's true. And honestly, I think it's the day and age that we live in too. We live in this world where everyone is screaming at you to go as fast as possible. You can't be successful if you don't hustle. And so a lot of it is too purposely trying to slow down, because the more you slow down, meditation to me is just purposely trying to quiet your mind and getting rid of all the voices out in the world externally telling you to be this way or do that. And if you're not operating fast enough, you're not going to be good enough or successful enough. And like, as you slow down purposely and start removing all those layers, you get to then cultivate your self-awareness.
Wow, that's big. Tell us about your backstory.
My
do you have brothers and
backstory.
sisters? Like, what was that like growing up?
Yeah, my parents are Korean immigrants. So they came to the United States in 1970. And at that time, I mean, it's the Korea you know today and from the 70s, they're like entirely different planets. Because in the 70s, it was still recovering from the Korean War. My parents really, didn't have very much growing up. And in the 70s, in 1970, the government only let you leave with $500 in cash and 2 suitcases, and that was it.
Whoa.
And so they came here and just created a brand new life for themselves. And then my sister was born. And then 10 years later, I was born. And then 1 year later, my brother was born. So for my parents, the priority really was education, so that we wouldn't have to live as hard as they did. Because my dad was an engineer and a teacher in Korea, and my mom was a nurse. And then they moved here and became dry cleaners.
Wow.
And so they never wanted us to have to work in those kind of conditions. I used to have to go there on the weekends or during summers, and it's not a fun environment to work in.
Yeah.
Chemicals everywhere. It's really, really hot. It's really, really dirty. It's really, really dusty. And my father actually passed away when I was 13. And we think it was probably due to all the chemical exposure in the dry cleaners. So not an easy life. They got 1 day off a week and 1 week off for vacation, and that was it. So for them, they were like, get a professional job, make money so you don't have to live this way. And creativity obviously is just not even an option when you're trying to survive. It's become a doctor and you'll have an easy life.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think that, seeing your parents go through what they did, that takes a tremendous amount of humility too, to come here and go from the professions that they did to working in a dry cleaner? That must be really, really tough. Did you look at that and think, wow, I've got to do great? Did that put pressure on you growing up?
I don't think that it put pressure on me like I need to be successful because they did that. It was more like I want to honor them. They worked so hard. And I honestly, what my parents went through, I don't think is a unique thing. I think many immigrants give up great lives in their countries because they think that there's something better here. And they give up, white collar jobs and scrap together what they can to be here. And I think that how I feel about my parents is not unique in that I want to honor their sacrifice and everything they've done. Mm-hmm. I think that for sure it builds a sense of complete gratitude. I see what they've done and how hard they've worked, and I want to honor all of their sacrifice by building the best life possible as I can for myself and also take care of my mom.
Wow. So let's talk about some of your successes. You've published 2 books.
Yeah, 2 dog photography books. Yeah.
Puppy Styled. That's how I found out about you. I found out about the book before I found out about Grace the person.
Funny. That's awesome.
Yeah, I want to say
wonderful.
that I found it on Amazon, and I love the cover and the colors, and I was like, wow, this looks kind of cool. And once I got it, it's like, I did a little bit of digging and found out you were actually in LA. And here we are.
Wow. Well, thank you, Amazon.
I know. It's crazy.
It's awesome.
So tell us about the books. Tell us about let's start with the first one.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me backtrack a little bit because the first one came out in 2017. And so I started my pet photography business in 2008. So that's 9 years in between.
That's right.
And I remember when I started my business, I said immediately, I need a book. I want a book. Because I felt like at the time, a book was what was going to validate me and make me feel like I did this. I'm an amazing pet photographer with the book now. And the more I tried to get a book, the more it didn't happen. So I gave up. I was like, I don't need a book to validate me. I love who I am. I like my career. I'm fine. And then in 2016, I got an email, just popped into my email from an editor. And she said, hey, I love your work. And let's just do a book, whatever you want to do, what are your ideas? And that's the best case scenario.
Wow.
Because up to that point, I had a few other people reach out to me, but they specifically wanted to do a book revolving around a series I did with my son and my dog. And that was a very limited series. There was only 23 pictures. And we can get into why I stopped that, but I stopped that very consciously. And I didn't want to make more. And so these people who came to me were very attached to only doing a book if it was with this series. And I just didn't want to.
Yeah.
And so for an editor to show up and be like, whatever you want to do, Grace, just
That's
tell me your
amazing.
ideas. Yeah. And so that became Waggish. It's a collection of smiling dog pictures. And I worked with my writing partner, Melanie Montero. And the whole idea is, what are these dogs thinking about that are making them smile the way they are? And so she wrote really funny, cute captions that go with each picture.
Wow. How do you get dogs to smile? I mean, would you sit there for hours to try and get the right shot?
That's a really good question. So I never make dogs do what they don't want to do. And it's really just being with them and observing them and capturing what I capture. And so I think because I'm really coming to them with a lot of empathy and connection and meeting them where they are, they're happy.
Yeah.
Because I don't make them do anything. And sometimes owners get really stressed out because they feel like, oh my God, like my dog is not doing what you're telling them to. And they get stressed out and then the dog gets stressed out. And so my objective is always to calm the owner down so that the dog can be calm. And a lot of times owners will be like, what are you, like a dog whisperer? How come they're doing all this stuff that my dog normally doesn't do? And it's really a combination of dog training. So I don't take bullshit from dogs. Like, I'm like, if you're barking at me and being bossy because of the treat in my hand, I'm not giving that to you. No, I give you a treat when you are sitting and you are calm, and then I will reward you.
Wow.
And then it's also, like I said, it's that empathetic connection that really, I think, makes them feel happy. And then it's just capturing it. So I'm not like purposely trying to capture them smiling. I think it's just something that happens as a result of us working together. They just feel really confident and calm.
I think the key is that you mentioned to actually calm their parents down first, because they pick up on the energy from them too.
They do, because when I walk into the space, I want to be as calm as possible so that the dog can be calm with me. But if the owner is freaking out, they're just going to make the energy like all messed up. It's kind of like dog trainers say that you're training the owner, not the dog. It's similar, you know, it's really like your dog is looking to you for guidance, similar with children, you know, and so you need to be this strong, grounded one for the dog to connect to and know like, oh, okay, like I got this, like you're good, I'm good.
Yeah. The way that I look at the energy or the vibration that come from dogs, they're always heightened. I think we have to meet them up here, right? So if we're down here, they feel it also, and it can kind of bum them out, or they take out aggression on people, etc., because of us.
Yeah. Like if you're scared of a dog, like they can feel that fear.
It's scary too, because when you walk up to a dog, like check your energy before you go walking up to a dog.
Yeah.
Because they will, like you said, they will pick up on it immediately.
Yeah.
So your next book, Puppy Style. So tell me about that book. And then what did you learn from the previous book that you brought into creating the second book?
Puppy Styled is a book of dogs before and after the Japanese style dog grooming. And that was created, not intended to be a book. I just had an idea for a photo series. So I just want to say that if you're a creative or if you're a photographer, it's really important to create work for yourself. Because if you're always just creating work that clients are telling you to create, you're never able to channel your own expression. And so Puppy Styled was a personal project. I had this idea, let's do a before and after series, had it all in my head. And I reached out to my friends at Healthy Spot and said, hey, let's do this together. And so we started with just 9 dogs. It was one day. And I hired my team of people. They hired their team of people. I think they had about 9 groomers there that day and just cranked out 9 pictures. And so all the dogs came in totally shaggy. We told the owners, please, like, don't give them baths or haircuts.
Wow.
They came in like wild. And then I got a photo, and then the groomers did their magic. And hours later, they're stepping on set, like looking like completely different dogs. So that was really fun. Went on the internet and it just like went bonkers, viral, crazy. And so then my editor from the first book was like, let's do another book and let's do Puppy Styled. So then we spent 3 months shooting the rest of the book. So what did I learn from that experience? A year went by in between there. And I'm always, as I said in the beginning, working on myself and just trying to be the best version of myself that I can be, not out of perfection, but more because I don't want to suffer. What does that mean? I don't want to go through life feeling anxiety or worry or stress or be concerned about things that really aren't helping me or serving me. So with Puppy Styled, I really was just like, the purpose of this book is to just get it out into the world and have it connect with the people it's meant to connect with, make people feel happy, make people laugh, make people smile. And that was it. That was really my only intention. So I don't know how many they've sold. I don't care. I don't need to know. People are always like, oh, how's the book doing? Like, I don't know. I don't care. Like, I can tell it's doing well because people are constantly tagging me on Instagram, or someone from Israel just tagged me. I'm like this, that's cool. Like,
That's
I feel like there's
amazing.
just like this really beautiful energy that's being spread around the world. And that's really all I want. I don't need it for anything other than that.
You know, you said a couple things that I thought were interesting. One, you're detaching from the outcome. And two, it's like you're not putting this pressure on yourself to produce something great or whatever the case may be. You're doing the best work that you can. But if it does well, fine. If it doesn't, it's almost like this is a passion project for the most part. Am I looking at this correctly?
Yeah, no, you are. And this is what I talk about on my show a lot too,
Yeah.
because I think we just need to make the best work that we can. Not out of perfection. I think perfectionism a lot of times is based in fear. It needs to be perfect, because if it's not going to be successful. That's not why I am striving for greatness. I am striving for greatness because I just want this thing to be at its highest potential. And so I think that, in doing that, then we can get out of our own way. And what happens after that is just icing on the cake. I heard Elizabeth Gilbert on a podcast recently, and she wrote one of my favorite books, Eat, Pray, Love. And she said on this podcast, the act of writing that book was enough.
Oh, interesting.
Like, when I finished that book, that was it. Like, that process of creating
journey.
it, the journey it took me on was
Whoa.
all I needed. And then everything that happened was just like, oh my God. But I feel like with the maturity that I've had in myself and the longevity of this career, I understand finally what it means to enjoy the process. Because I used to not know what the hell that meant, because I was always trying to race to the outcome.
Yep.
And everything I did was to get to the outcome and have it be the best and have it win awards and be the gold medal winner, stand out. And I don't care about that anymore. I understand, especially when you're starting out, you might need that, because it's almost like telling yourself, like, I got this, I can do this. And so I'm not saying people shouldn't want those things. I can fully see how, because even for myself, that helped me a lot on my journey to give me the confidence to keep going. But for me, it's not about that gold medal at the end anymore. It's like the transformation and journey that happens as I'm making the work and trying to get the work out in its greatest and highest potential. So when I heard Elizabeth Gilbert say that, I was like, God, I finally understand what it means to enjoy the process of making something.
Wow, that's powerful. Go back and maybe discuss the editorial side of creating the books, also the ideation side. How did you work that out? Was there a big process of planning before you had created the books?
The ideation process is really interesting. I'm very, very fortunate that my editor at Countryman Press, little shout out to them, she gave me so much freedom, and she really let me dictate the look and feel of the entire book. So I actually designed that entire book. My cousin, who is an incredibly amazing graphic designer, she designed the cover of it. Everything was just very intentionally designed. And my editor, Anne, gave me the freedom to do that, which I'm very, very thankful for. But also, I had the balls to stand up for myself.
That's right.
Because when I did my first book and they showed me what they did, I'm sorry, she's never going to hear this, but I cried. I was like, what the F is this? This is not my brand. This is not a representation of me and my work at all. And I talked to my husband, and he was just like, you know what? If you need to ruffle feathers, it doesn't matter. You need to get what you want. And so I had a call with my editor with the first book that was so uncomfortable. But I basically was just like, I don't like this design, and I can't move forward with this if this is the design. And she let me redo that book, redesign that. And then by the second book, it was just a given that I would design it. And so I had that freedom and flexibility there. As far as working with Healthy Spot, we had a lot of meetings. I guess I was essentially creative director, and I sort of had to translate my vision in my head to them. And I was very clear. We had a lot of meetings with scrap images and sort of pointing out, these are the kinds of things we want to execute in the book. These are the kind of things that I don't think should go in the book. So for example, all the dogs in the book, really the focus is on the hair. There really isn't that much dyeing involved or like putting trinkets on them or like jewelry or ribbons, because I wanted it to be about the hairstyle and not the accessories that you're putting it on. Like I thought the cuteness should come from the cuts and not the accessories. So there's conversations about that. And then in post, after we shot all the pictures, conversations about retouching, because all these dogs were not models. So when I'm on set with commercial clients, I mean, we're getting studio trained animals in, but for puppy style, these are all people's pets. And so a lot of the images, I'd say majority of the images in that book are composited together. So you're getting like the face of one and the body of one, and there's a hand here. So, a lot of Frankensteining images together. And sometimes, listen, those groomers are amazing magicians, but they were cranking hairstyles out like nobody's business these days we're shooting. And so sometimes there's little errors.
Yeah.
So I'd go in and post and help smooth things out here and there where necessary. And so there was a lot of conversations about that. I mean, it was truly a collaboration in the sense that, if they felt like this haircut's not good enough for the book, we didn't put it in. So there was one dog that just didn't go in because the team wasn't comfortable with that. And yeah, it was just an amazing collaboration.
And what is it about Japanese grooming style that attracted you guys?
Japanese style is very different than what we're used to seeing here. So here, if you watch a dog show, you're going to see a poodle has a poodle cut and a Yorkie has a Yorkie cut. Everything is to breed standard.
That's right.
And those cuts were done to highlight or hide perceived flaws in the breed. So if, I don't know, like, I'm going to make this up because I'm not an expert, but like if a dog's hips are funny, it's like, well, the haircut designed is going to hide that flaw. Okay. So with Japanese style dog grooming, it's like you're throwing all those rules out the window and the groomer is really an artist because they're looking at the dog and assessing where it's the cutest and giving it a haircut to reflect that. So, a lot of round shapes, a lot of symmetry, a lot of removing the hair around the eyes so you can actually see the eyes.
That's big.
Yeah.
The dog on the cover of Puppy Style, how did you guys decide on that little guy?
That was totally my editor. And they probably did, testing there at the offices to see which dog people liked. And I don't think he was actually my first choice. I don't remember who was, but, and now I'm like, yeah, that was a good choice because people love that dog.
I do too.
Yeah.
It just automatically just grabbed me.
He's very cute. He's like a little toy poodle.
Yeah. Okay. So for the untrained photographer like myself, it would probably take me like 100 shots to get one good one. Give us some advice on taking like the perfect photo.
Yeah. First of all, you need to use really good treats. I don't think people realize how much training is really involved. So people tell me all the time, Grace, I can never get a good photo of my dog. My dog won't look at the camera. I'm like, well, are you using good treats? And they're like, no.
Whoa.
So use really high reward treats, and that will serve two functions. Number one, you can use that to direct the dog's eye line because now you have a really super yummy treat in your hand, not like a dry biscuit, but like, I don't know. I use something that I call doggy crack at Stella and Chewy's. It's dehydrated steak. But when I'm on set with studio trained animals, they're using bacon, they're using chicken. I've had a trainer use chicken nuggets.
Wow.
I'm talking high reward that will motivate the dog and keep their eyes laser focused on you. So wherever that food goes is where their eyes looking.
Wow.
In the lens, right? If you want it at the lens, you hold it right by your lens and it'll look like they're looking in there. And then as soon as you fire off a lot of shots, you're just going to shoot. I say that if my business was dependent on film, I'd be out of business because you have to shoot a lot. The reason why you shoot a lot is because dogs move, and so it's about trying to get that perfect frame. And then you use that food in your hand to reward them. And that's it. And dogs figure out this flow so fast.
Wow. So you're saying that it's not a negative to shoot a ton of pictures in, right?
No, I don't think it's a negative to shoot a ton of pictures. I don't think it's a negative to have to do post-processing or retouching. I think we have all these hang-ups about things. I'm like, why? Who said? Just shoot what you like and the way you like and get the photo you like.
I see that a lot. I think it's, if you look at people shooting on Instagram, the picture just has to be absolutely perfect. I see guys following their girls around and they're getting hammered because they're not getting the right photos. I've had that issue with my wife too. And it's so subjective, you look at it and you're like, this is a great photo of you. I don't see what the problem is. Who makes that end decision? Are you the one that essentially sits there and says, okay, out of 1,000, this is the one. Like, how do you even figure that out?
That's a good question. Well, I think for Instagram husbands, they're dealing with women and we are vain and we like to be presented in certain ways. So like 90% of the time I hate photos of myself and I'm like, I look fat. No, do it again. With dogs, what I am looking for is it's so many factors, okay? There's so many things going on in a photo, and the art of choosing selects is very difficult. Being able to look at 50 pictures that look almost the same and picking the one that is going to be the hero, that takes a trained eye. And so I'm looking for a lot of different things, but if we're only talking about the dog, I want to make sure that they look comfortable. Like the shots I don't like are like if you see whale eye, where they look scared, or if the ears are kind of cocked back and they look scared. It's a lot about looking at their body language. Sometimes they look hot because their tongue is hanging out and curling over. So it's looking for those things. And the ones that I end up picking are the ones that tell an emotional story about the dog. I would say 90% of the time when commercial clients hire me, it's because they like that they almost feel like they know the dog in the photo without having met them before. And that's because what I'm really trying to do is capture their inner emotional essence and translate that through one still photo. And so I am looking at the pictures, it's almost like a feeling in my body. Like when I see the right one, I just know it feels electric. I'm just like, that's the one. It tells something about that dog. Do they look excited? Do they look sad? Like it doesn't always have to be happy either. It's like, what is the story that I'm trying to tell about this amazing creature in front of me, and which photo is going to capture that? So the reason why Waggish was so fun is because not all the smiles are the same. They're all a little bit different. And so it was really fun to imagine what is making them smile, because it's all like a little bit of a subtlety, you know? That's
so freaking cute. Let's talk about equipment, your favorite subject.
Yeah, not really.
Does it matter? How important is equipment, by the way? Or is it just the photographer? Can a great photographer take a picture with just about anything?
Yes, and this is why I have such a heart for teaching people how to take amazing pictures with their iPhones. I have taught workshops. I have taught live classes. I want people to feel empowered that animal photography is not about having a $3,000 camera. Animal photography is the ability to see and perceive something in the animal in front of you that most people aren't going to see. And your camera is just a tool that's helping you do that. It's your eye and your perception that is allowing the camera to capture that. And so it doesn't matter what gear you're working with. You can do that with an iPhone. And that's really why I like to teach people iPhone photography, because I want them to feel like, wow, I can do this and I don't need crazy expensive gear to do it. The only reason I have to get into gear as a commercial photographer is because of delivering files. Like things have to be a certain size and they have to be up to modern standards. Yep. But I think I can get a photo of a dog that's good on a phone, or, you know, a camera that costs thousands of dollars.
What about posts? Like say that you're using a phone, which a majority of the people that are listening are probably just using their iPhone or Android, right? Are you doing any post at all? Are you using any programs? You know, the iPhone has a cool edit feature too now. Instagram has filters, etc. Are you playing with any of that after you take a shot?
I am, because basically an iPhone is shooting everything in auto mode. It's automatic. You really don't have too much control over what's happening when you press the shutter. And so post-processing is going to help you, you know, bring up exposure. A lot of times pictures will come out underexposed, which means it's too dark. So you're going to use an app to help lift that. I use apps to sharpen. I love Google Snapseed. It's free.
Yep.
And it has so many amazing features in it. You can just control the color and the contrast and the exposure. And ever since I started, my work has always had a very clean aesthetic, like white balance. That means what's the overall color in the image? And I just like mine as clean and crisp as possible. And trends dictate how we post-process images. So I remember when I first started my image or my photography, Instagram was getting kind of big in 2008. And so everything was looking kind of vintage. And so everyone was processing their pictures kind of yellower or like putting filters on them. And me personally, I like my images just without that stuff because it gives it a timeless quality. Like you can't look at my pictures and be like, oh, well, this was clearly shot in 2008 because it's got this like vintage pea staining all over it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that actually helps with Waggish because I would say 80% of the images in that book were what I've shot over the last decade being a photographer. And so this applies now to post with your iPhone because for me, I'll use that to control the white balance and make sure the images are neutral. And I love it. You have to do it to get good pictures.
Yeah, I've played with Snapseed actually. And I almost feel like you actually need to take a course to figure out how to use that thing. Am I right there? I've played with the filters and stuff, and it wasn't the most intuitive, and I think the reason is because it has a shit ton of features.
It does.
Like there's a lot that you can do with it. And it's like, as an artist, when do you know when to stop? When is enough enough?
I really think that takes a trained eye and you deciding when it's enough. Because what is enough is different for everybody. It's completely subjective.
Right.
And so the more you create and the more you identify what you like, and more importantly, what you don't like, it's a process of, recreating that over and over again. And so it really takes just doing the work, practicing, processing your pictures, looking at it, deciding, oh, I like it for this reason, I don't like it for this reason, and doing it again. And then you can start figuring out when your own personal enough is. You can also do that by looking at other people's work too. So it's like if you see a photographer whose work you really like, say you like mine, say you like it's colorful, it's very neutral in color, you can try to adjust your images to look sort of like that style and just see. I think a lot of the beginning process of being creative is playing. There is a lot of emulating the people that you admire. And I think as you do that and start figuring out what you like and what you don't like, that's how you start finding your own voice.
Wow. Are there any photographers that you really look at for inspiration? Or are you one of those people that just kind of, you keep your head down because you don't want to inadvertently be inspired by someone's style or colors or look?
I'm completely the latter, meaning I like to keep my head down. If I look at work, they're not in the pet photography, dog photography, animal space, because I just don't want to emulate that by accident. I think our brains, we take in all this input and then that input kind of smushes together and starts combining and coming out in cool ways. And I want that to be as neutral as possible, like not emulating other people's work by accident.
Yeah.
And so like I subscribe to fashion magazines just to see color and light and things like that. I'll go to art museums. Like I try to get my input in a lot of different ways that aren't necessarily other photographers.
Wow. What about the publishing side? I want to say there's a saying where everyone feels like they've got one good book in them, right? Mm-hmm. And whether they do it or not, a majority of people won't do it. They won't follow through in the process. What is the publishing side like? What is it? What's the process of actually publishing a book?
I am very fortunate, as I said, that they came to me. Yeah. But, in the years before where I was trying to get a book, I did a lot of research. And I just think that if you have a desire to do something, there is a way to figure it out. Marie Forleo just came out with a book called Everything is Figure Outable. And it is. And I think that people put up roadblocks and say, well, I don't have this many Instagram followers, so how am I going to, we just like make up excuses for why we can't go out and figure our stuff out. Mm-hmm. And so in the terms of publishing, for me, I would go to the bookstore and I would look at all the dog photography books and make note of who the publishers were. And then I would then go online and see if they accepted unsolicited manuscripts, which means these are publishers that want to hear your ideas. You can email them or send them and pitch them your idea and see if they want to do the book. You could try to find an agent. So that was another thing I did. I had a literary agent for a little bit of time because for the publishers who don't accept unsolicited manuscripts, they will accept manuscripts from agents.
I see.
So I had an agent for a little bit of time and she was out shopping books around. And I would say, don't give up. If it is your dream to do a book, be persistent and don't give up, because guess what? You're going to hear a lot of no's before you get a yes. And you never know when that yes is going to come. And if you give up, you're not going to get there. And the industry changes all the time, because back when I was shopping a book around in 2009, the feedback my agent consistently got was, we love the work, but there's too many dog books. But guess what? In 2019, 10 years later, you can't have enough dog books.
Yeah.
Like literally influencer dogs have their own books.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you give up, you're going to miss out on that stuff. But if you're consistent, you don't give up, and you keep trying to move forward with what you want to do, something is going to connect. And we also live in this amazing time where you can self-publish. So I know plenty of people who have self-published their own books too. There is no shame in that. People do it all the time. And again, if you have the drive to do that, guess what? Self-published authors end up getting picked up by more traditional publishers too. So there's just so many resources and avenues out there to get your work out there. The only thing stopping you is you.
Yeah, that's really well said. What I'm hearing here is that you've got to take step 1 in order for step 2 or 3 to reveal itself, right?
That is exactly it.
Yeah.
And I think that for a lot of people, things are so daunting because they're not looking at it as what is the literal step 1 that I can take. They are looking at step 100 when the book is finished. And not, okay, I want to do a book. So what's step 1?
Yeah.
You know, is my idea even good enough?
That's right.
You know, like what are the literal baby steps you can do to move you forward instead of focusing so far beyond with like the finished product, because you're not even close to there yet.
Was there a time, when you were publishing the first book that perhaps a limited belief had come in, or there's a roadblock, etc., that you had to overcome, or were there several along the way?
I can tell you a very specific example with Puppy Styled. So it took us so long to come up with the title. I think Waggish, that title was a little complicated. And I think the book idea is a little complicated too. It takes a couple steps to understand what that book is about. It's like dogs that are smiling and they have captions explaining why they're smiling. Like it's a little more convoluted versus dogs before and after haircuts. Like that's so
Super simple.
And so we felt like the title needed to be super simple. And that is much harder to do than you would think. We came up with the perfect name after months and months of brainstorming. My editor came up with the perfect name. It was Groomed.
Yep.
And so I ran it by Healthy Spot, and Healthy Spot was like, great, we love it. And then the head groomer, Patricia Sugihara, was like, Grace, I thought the name sounded familiar and I wasn't sure, but it's because there's this amazing groomer that we work with. We go to the same seminars together. We go to the same workshops together. Her name is Jess Rona. I wasn't friends with her at the time. I am now.
Okay.
But she said Jess Rona is coming out with a dog photography book of dogs before and after, shot in Japanese style dog grooming, and it's called Groomed.
Oh,
and I was like, are you freaking kidding me right now? Like, how is it that there's 2 books that are almost identical coming out in the same year with the same title? Like, what the heck? And this is a story about mindset, because I wasn't friends with her at the time. And so my perception of Jess is I'm this little tiny person down here, and she's like way off in the stratosphere because she's got way more followers than me. Yep. She's got a ton of celebrity clients. She went crazy, insane, viral because of these like funny blowout videos she was doing. Mm-hmm. And like everyone has talked about Jess Rona, and now I'm competing against Jess Rona. Like that made me feel so small. And like, I think if I was not as emotionally and spiritually mature at that point, I just would have been like, of course this would happen. Of course I put all this time into this. And of course, somebody who I think is much better than me and much further along in her career than me is going to come out with almost the exact same book with the same title. And I let myself feel that way because that's human. Yeah. Right. And I think I was probably there for maybe 30 minutes. And that's when I was just like, okay, I got to fix the way I'm feeling about this, and let's kick this into action. Got on the phone with my editor, and I was like, we need to change the book title. We're not going out with Groomed. And so we came to Puppy Styled. And it's just funny because I think what I realized that really helped me move away from that fear and like, oh my God, was like, we are such different people. And our books are so different. And so you can wrap it up in a little soundbite and say, oh, there are 2 books with before and afters of Japanese style dog grooming. But Jess and I are not the same person.
Yeah.
So the book we're going to make is totally different, and it's not going to go to the same people. Everything you make is meant to go to the people it's meant to make. And I realized I was just making up all this like scarcity in my head that wasn't true. And once we changed the title and we move forward with it, I mean, it is what it is. It's been great. I love Puppy Style. And Jess and I have become friends now. So I have her book, she has my book. And it's just so funny that I had this moment of, oh my God, like this is terrible, you know, and now we're friends.
Sometimes competition, I guess, is not a bad thing too, because it helped you kick something else, you know, go to the next level basically, and help you decide. You probably were more confident than ever to push the project forward too.
Yeah, I think that honestly, I like Groomed better as a title. So if it had been Groomed, it would be fine. But I really believe that you have a choice to look at the obstacle in front of you, and you can look at it in complete defeat and be like, oh, like, of course, and look at it as a victim. Or you can say, okay, no, I'm going to move forward and make it better. And to your point, I think I just felt better knowing that, you know, I think it's like the acceptance, you know, and maybe it's not what I would have liked, but this was the way things were unfolding. So it's like, if I decide to get upset about this, what's the point?
Yeah,
What is that going to do? So for me, I think more than a lesson in confidence, it was a lesson in acceptance and surrendering. And everything unfolded and happened in the best way possible. Because like I said, people like the book. And that's all. I just want people to feel happy when they look at the book, and mission accomplished.
How has the book changed the course of your career? Are you getting like more opportunities in other areas? Are you getting exposed to something that perhaps you never even thought of?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know. I think that I just try to just keep going and moving forward every day. So what is happening as a result of that book? I don't know. I mean, I think that because I have a very odd career, people have always somehow found me, and I've just been given opportunities that I never expected, like being on TV or doing all these things. So I think maybe because of the book, people like you and others who wouldn't have known about me are discovering me. But to say, you know, all these things have happened because of the book, not that I can perceive, but I don't know. I don't know. I think I'm so in my everyday, I can't really tell you what the outside world is like. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, no,
like
that
I don't
totally
know what
makes
people's
sense.
perception is, or you know, these things are happening because of it, just because I am in my day-to-day and just trying to make the best work that I can in all ways. And my goal really always at the end of the day, whatever I make, I just want people to feel better. And it's that simple.
Wow. I'm going to tell you a story about a website that I had. 5 years ago, I had pulled an image from Google's image library, and I actually put it on my website. And my website was actually getting a decent amount of traffic. And I got a letter from Getty Images saying that you violated I think it was a copyright infringement. And there's a fine for that. It's not take it down. It's like, pay this $800 today or we take you to court. And they have grounds for it. So I was scared. I freaking complied, right? So I want to get into like IP and copyright issues. I've seen some of your pictures on Instagram. I've seen, and we've kind of briefly talked about that before. How much work has gone into protecting your IP, and how big of an issue has it been for you?
I've had 2 photo series go viral now. The first series I alluded to, it's with my son and my dog, and then now puppy style pictures. And so people end up using your work, that's, I don't want to call it downside, but that's what happens is when your work goes all over the globe and you get that kind of exposure, people who are not as educated about copyright think that they're entitled to use it. And so, there's a lot of accessories in the pictures I shot of my dog and baby. And so those pictures have ended up on Etsy from people who are selling products similar to the hats they're wearing. They've ended up on Alibaba. I mean, they're everywhere. And even with the dog grooming pictures, they have ended up on mobile grooming vans.
Oh my God.
Like people take the pictures and plaster them all
Super
over
original,
their vans.
right?
So original. And I'm just like, you're such a liar. Because not only did you steal my pictures, you're representing these cuts as yours.
Oh my God.
And so the thing is that when copyright infringement happens in places like the United States, I mean, yes, you have grounds to sue. All my images are protected with the USPTO, the US Patent and Trademark Office. So that's why anytime I get a chance to talk about this on Instagram, I will say, creatives, protect your work. Because people think, oh, well, as soon as I make it, don't I have a copyright to it because I created it? Yes. But if you want to be able to go to court and collect damages, your images need to be registered with the USPTO if you want to be able to collect statutory damages. So number one, my images are protected. I don't even put them online until they've been registered. But unless it's in the US, the sad truth is you can't do anything about it. And so pictures end up in China, pictures end up in Russia, and they have no compliance. You can't make them do or pay for anything. So if there is an American company involved, so for example, an app developer in Russia took my pictures and incorporated it into his app, Apple was like on top of it. Facebook and Instagram, they are on top of copyright infringement. So if people in other countries are using my pictures or not complying when I ask them to take them down, the companies will intervene because they don't want to get sued. So that happens a lot. And as far as your question, how much of my time is involved? I mean, it's the attachment thing. It's for the things that I can actually control. Like, hey, grooming van in Las Vegas, remove my pictures. You're going to get in really big trouble. I'll spend the time on stuff like that. Or if Apple can help me and get images removed off an app. But, if stuff is ending up in China, there's kind of nothing I can do about it, which is very unfortunate. But I also have to let go of control of that because otherwise I would get sick trying to manage all of this. And so I don't go out of my way to look for infringements. I'm so fortunate that people who follow me on Instagram always find them. They're all over Amazon, like dog grooming clipper companies use the picture. I mean, they're everywhere, but that would be a full-time job. And I want to spend my time and energy making amazing work and not just policing stupid stuff that I really don't have control over.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, enforcing, it's not the funnest thing to do either, especially I know what it's like to get your mindset into that creative space and to be pulled out of it. It's like, it's really, really hard to get pulled out of it and then get back in. Once you're in the zone, you're in the zone.
Yeah, they call it flow. I've heard a lot of people talking about flow lately, and you're right. Yeah, it's like these things happen and it's like, I want to be in the flow. I don't want to be dealing with this crap.
Yeah, that's really interesting. At the end of 2018, you decided to start your own podcast.
Yes.
Creativity School.
Yes.
So what was the inspiration behind doing that? And again, was this something that you had thought about doing for quite a while, or was it something that you just said, you know what, I'm going to do a podcast?
I had felt a desire to help people. I've always felt that my photos helped people. Like if you feel not good, you can look at a cute picture of a dog and feel better. And I started feeling like I needed to help people in a more direct way. And I didn't know what that was. So I didn't know it was podcast. I was like, am I supposed to be a life coach? I started out as a writer. I got into art school as a writer. So I was like, am I supposed to get back into writing? Like, I just didn't know how I was being called to help people. And once podcast was the thing, I was like, that's it. That is what I need to talk to people through. And so the podcast is really about helping people on their creative journeys because I know firsthand how hard it is to overcome everything in the world telling you not to do it. And then I know how hard it is firsthand to continue and follow through on the journey because I've been doing this now since 2008 as a small business owner, and it has not been easy. And I know from the outside, because Instagram is a highlight reel, it might seem like that, but there have been many times in my long career that I've almost given up and walked away and thought, God, it would just be so easy to go back into the ad industry as an art director like I used to work in and get a steady paycheck and get paid vacation and all these things. And so the podcast is something that I come to with personal experience. And I just want to encourage and inspire people that if this is something you want to do, if you want to be creative, you can absolutely do it and you can keep going doing it. And what I didn't realize when I started my pet photography business was how much of this was an inside job. You know, I thought it was about just putting out amazing photography and that was it. And that's not. It's not just about putting out great work. And so what I talk about on the show is you really have to do your best work on the inside to get your best work out on the outside. And that is a message I strongly believe in. It's about mindset. It's about believing in yourself. It's about loving yourself. It's about not letting the outcome of what happens with your work affect your self-worth. It's about so many things. And I love that I have this podcast now to talk to people about all this.
Wow. When you created the idea, basically, is there a reason why you didn't stick in the pet niche?
That's a really good question, Anthony. And I think most people probably expected me to do something with dogs or even photography.
Yeah.
And I felt like my message was bigger. And honestly, it's scary because when you are leveling up and exposing yourself to a bigger community and a bigger audience, it's scary. I think the easier thing would have been for me to stick in the community that I know. Mm-hmm. But I really felt like what I wanted to talk about in terms of creativity and having the courage to put the work out into the world that you felt called to do, that was bigger than the audience that I had had for the last decade. And it took a lot of inner work yet again to become a bigger version of myself. You know, podcasting is so scary. I don't know if you find it scary, but I was terrified.
Yeah.
Because since 2008, I've sort of been like a faceless figure. You know, my work stood for myself. My photo was my voice. And to literally have my voice reaching people's ears, and it's not just my voice, but it's my deep philosophies and my thoughts, that is terrifying.
Yeah.
But I just felt like I had to do it. And I knew I had to overcome all my fears and my doubts about myself to do it. And it's been amazing. And I'm so glad that I did the show that I did. Because even with the show that I did, I thought, well, I'm going to make it just for Asian Americans because I'm Korean.
Yep.
And I realized even in doing that, I was limiting myself again. It's like comfortable to do a show for a smaller audience.
Yes.
But I feel like this message is meant for everybody. It's not just for Asians. It's not just for women. It's for everybody. Everybody needs help with this. So it was a process of me like just being brave enough to do it. And I did. And that's just a big part of the show too. Just be brave and do the work that is being called to be done.
Yeah. Wow. What about vetting, and how do you come up with the topics and stuff like that for your podcast?
I have a very clear idea of the kind of things that I want to have discussed on this show. Mm-hmm. I kind of look at myself as a curator. Mm-hmm. And so I know what's helped me. And so I like to find guests that can help tell that story through their own experience. So it's not always just me saying, this is what you should do, or this is what worked for me. I like to bring on guests that sort of illustrate concepts that I think have also helped me personally. And so my show, I look at it in three ways. It's me talking solo sometimes, me bringing on guests talking about their journeys, and then me bringing on experts, whether they're talking about money mindset or how to be more productive. And all of these topics are very, very curated purposefully and intentionally because they're things that I know will help people. So my intention always is this something that I think is going to help somebody? And if the answer is yes, I'll put it on.
You know, one thing that I noticed, doing the podcast, I noticed that people that I reach out to, they're very, very gracious usually. I rarely get a no. Innately, I think people want to give back. Do you experience the same when you reach out to someone that doesn't know who you are?
Yeah, I have only received one no, and I think it's because they were very, very, very shy. And they didn't feel ready to talk about it. But I think you're right. I think most people feel flattered that they're being asked to share their story. And I think most people want to help.
Yep.
You know, if they feel like, wow, my story can help somebody, then yeah, I'm going to be generous and talk about it.
Wow. So any podcasts that you love to listen to yourself?
Oh gosh, I am such a podcast junkie. I think that's why I got into this. My number one favorite is Oprah Super Soul Conversations.
Yep.
That is a show that I think any episode she puts out, I'll listen to it. I love her. She's so wise. She's so generous. She has such a big heart.
Did you get a chance to listen to, it was probably about a year ago, Eckhart Tolle was on Oprah's show, and they recorded, it was like a 4 or 5 part series.
Yeah, it was talking about his book.
Yes, right? Super good.
So good. I love her because she's a curator too.
Yeah,
she is bringing information and topics to people that she knows will help people.
Yep.
And so I think maybe also that's why I look up to her so much. It's because and I'm very similar. Like when I have something that I think is amazing and good, I want to share it with people. I want people to know how good the burrito at this place is.
Right, yeah.
Right. And I want people to know how amazing this dog store is. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Oprah is like that too. Like that's why she's got her favorite things. Like, you know, she has this enthusiasm in her that when she has knowledge or something, she can't hold it to herself.
That's right.
She can't keep it to herself. It's too good not to share.
Yep.
And that's what I love the most about her. And so that's why I know when I listen to her podcast, everything she recommends is something that's going to feed my soul and help me become a better person. So that's my number one. I love her.
Mm-hmm. So I'm starting to see a method here to the madness. So do I see, or can I predict that there's the Grace Chon Media Company coming anytime soon?
Oh God. From
You've
your
got
lips
the
to God's
books,
ears.
you've got the books, you've got the podcast. What's next?
I'm going to be totally honest with you and tell you that I don't plan for what's next. I have worked really hard the last 2 years specifically to learn to just live in the flow of life and let it guide me. And so I think that if I have plans for myself, it's trying to control the outcome a little bit.
Totally.
I know the feeling that I want in the future. You know, I want to make as many people happy as I can with what I make. And I want to make as many people feel inspired and empowered to make what they want to make. And I want to have the most loving relationship as possible with my family and my friends. And so that's kind of it. And whatever it takes for me to get there, I'm ready and open for it. But as far as concrete, tangible things, I really don't know. But I do have a photo series that I've been working on. So that will be the next thing that will be coming out. And it's about the healing power of dogs. And I'm very excited about that.
Whoa.
But that's really like the only thing I have planned. Yeah.
That's really fascinating. Can you elaborate a little bit more, or do we need to wait?
Oh, no. I'll be happy to share. So I
Yeah.
kind of say it's like my Jim Carrey moment because I'm getting a little more serious with the work. The past 2 photo series that went viral were very funny and made people laugh.
Yep.
And I don't want people to laugh when they look at this work. It's very stark, intentionally stark, black and white portraits of dogs looking straight to camera. And it's for the user or the viewer to experience the unique healing energy that the dog is offering. Because
Wow.
I really think dogs are here to heal. They are here to heal us. And how are they doing that? With their absolute, generous, unconditional love. That is all they have. They are pure love. I think dogs are the living embodiment of pure unconditional love. And anybody that has a relationship with the dog knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I think it's all unique. Every dog has a different, beautiful, palpable energy that they're offering to the world. And so this photo series, really, I want it to be a series where viewers, where viewers can connect with that work and experience the unique healing energy that the dog is bringing to them. And so it's almost like I want people to meditate for a second while they're looking at the dog. You know, it's like stop the scroll, stop the chaos, just for a second. Find your stillness, breathe, and just connect with this beautiful dog. And that's it.
Wow. And that idea just seems so timely given, the current climate that we're dealing with here, both in the political arena and also just with the global warming issues and stuff too. I think that would be the timing is perfect for that.
Everybody is so freaked out. And I think I was talking to you about how you were saying younger people are just living with so much depression and anxiety, not just because of, technology and social pressure, but also the not knowing what's going to happen to our planet.
That's right.
There's just a lot of heavy fear and anxiety in all levels, all across the globe, the fires in the Amazon. I mean, like everything, what's happening at the border. I just want people to feel a moment of complete peace and love, just even for 5 seconds.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. You just asked so many questions. My goodness, such thoughtful questions. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're a great interviewer. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Instagram is probably the best way. It's at the Grace Chon. And if you want to look at more work, it's my name, gracechon.com.
I'm going to plug her book too, guys. Go to Amazon.
No, thank you. Thank you, Anthony.
All right. Thank you for being on.
Hey guys, we really hope you enjoyed this episode, and thanks so much for listening to the show this week. You can subscribe wherever you're listening, and we love feedback. So feel free to also leave us a review. You can also visit us on Instagram at Book with Pierre. Until next time, I'm Anthony Flores, and you're listening to The Shift, a pet service podcast.